Okay. So again, I'm going to start with a blank project. You guys remember how this annoying thing keeps showing up every time we start a new project. So in order to get rid of that, so the first thing we're going to do is scroll down in the properties and say that as far as scope box, we don't want any scope box. And then uncheck crop view and crop region visible. And then we can get rid of these reference lines. We can get rid of these two as well. So if you were to start grid lines, well, the first thing we want to do before grid lines is what? Set up your elevations. So again, notice we got level 1, level 2. If I want to add a level, I would go in here. I would say, well, whatever distance. You don't even have to have a distance. Just stick it in somewhere. And then once it's in there, then you can go in and say, well, I want it at a different elevation. I don't want it at 34. I want it at 26, let's say. Okay. So again, what's the difference between the blue and the black? So there's a view on the left-hand side. Notice there's a L2, but when I created L3, notice there is no L3. So let's add a L3, go to the view tab, and then select plan views, floor plan, L3. So now we have L3 as well. Well, we want to do the same thing for the structure because we're working in structure. So again, plan views, structural plan. Again, we're not duplicating views, so only L3 will show up and we'll say okay, right? So now if you scroll down, you will notice that there is a structural plans, L1, L2, L3. So if I go to L1, now I can create my grids, right? You could do this from the structure tab or the architecture tab. You can select grids. So I'm just going to draw like 4 grids. Let's see, zoom out. Right? So I have 4 grid lines. Again, this annoying thing still keeps showing up. In order to get rid of it, again, go to the view properties. Again, when you're selected nothing, and then uncheck those 2 boxes. Now that line goes away. So we have our 4 grids. All right, everybody good with that? Well, let me rephrase my question. Everybody know how to draw grids and levels, right? We did this last semester. So again, everybody should be good with that. Now, what we did last semester was we jumped straight into architecture and worked on walls and that sort of thing. This semester, we're going to do, we're going to start with structure, right? So let's say, for instance, if we want to put in columns, I want to put in a rectangular concrete column, actually a square concrete column, a circular concrete column, a W12 by 120, and a W14 by 120, right? If I want to insert those 4 columns, I'd have to go to insert. Again, by now, everybody knows that you need to be signed in. You need to be signed in. Notice your name shows up over there in the top right-hand corner. If it doesn't show up, click on log in, and you have to go ahead and log in. Everybody remember how to log in? You have access to that because we created that account last semester, students.autodesk.com. This right here, if you click on that, if you're not signed in, it will say sign in. If you're signed in, it will say sign out. Obviously, I'm not going to sign out. So once you've done this, in the Insert tab, load Autodesk Family, and then I'm going to scroll down to my structural columns. Now, one thing to pay attention, there's columns and there are structural columns. The difference is that you'll find the same stuff in both places, except structural columns are load bearing. Okay. So always put in structural columns when you're putting it in. So I'm going to select structural columns and notice all the different types of columns that we have available, right? So let's say I'm going to select a wide flange, W wide flange column, load, and it gives me all the different options that are available in there. I'm going to scroll down and say, well, I want a W12 by 120. So there's my W12 by 120. I also want a W14 by 120. So scroll up to 14 by 120, hold your command key, and now you can select both of them, 12 by 120 and 14 by 120 as well. And then you would say, okay. And then if you want to also load something else, load Autodesk Family, then scroll to, let's see, circular concrete column. Oh, we have to select concrete, and then it gives us the options. And there's my concrete round column. And then let's also, while I'm here, hold my control key, select concrete square column as well, and we'll hit load both of them. So once your columns are loaded, select structure, column, and then let's say I want to choose a round column 30-inch in diameter. Click on that. And then if you hover, notice if you hover, it highlights both of those grid lines. What does that mean? It's snapping to that grid line, right? So click on it. There's my round one. If I want a square one, I'll go to my other. You don't have to be super precise. If you just hover somewhere near it, it assumes you're trying to snap and it will snap it. And then let's see if we can select a 12 by 120, W12 by 120. And then I'm going to place that over there. So now we have 4 columns in here. If you get lost anytime, what do you do on the keyboard to get back to where you were? So Revit has a lot of keyboard shortcuts. If you're ever lost, do a ZA on your keyboard. That stands for zoom all. Okay? ZA on your keyboard stands for zoom all. So this is what it should look like. I've got a rectangle or a square, a square, a circle, and a couple of W-shaped columns. Remember here's the unique thing about columns. Whoever designed this piece in Revit, they messed up. What do you mean? Well, let's take a quick look at the 3D view. Where do you go to 3D view? All right, hit the house button, and there's your 3D view. Well, guess what? They're all below my grid line. So I'm going to select them all, hold my control key, and then if you look on the left-hand side, it says, hey, it goes from level 1 to level 1 with a negative 9-foot offset. No, I want it to go from level 1 to level 3. And I want level 1 to level 3. And I want a bottom offset of, let's say, a negative 2 feet. Right? I want it to start 2 feet below grade. Does that make sense? And then if I want to now put foundations in, again, same idea. If you want to load your foundations, you would go to, first of all, there's isolated foundation, right? And it says 72 by 48 by 18, and there's another one. That we only got 2 of those, right? So let's say I want a 64 by 64 by 24, right? If I want a foundation, isolated foundation, 64 by 64 by 24, I would select this, edit type, duplicate, right? We would say, well, we wanted 64 inches by 64 inches by 24 inches. And we'll say, okay. And then that's the name. Now you got to go and change the size of it as well, right? So 64 inches is 5'4", 5'4", and then 2. And say, okay. And now when you hover over near the edge of that and click on there, notice 2 grid lines are selected, right? Or highlighted. If I click on there, it'll give me a message saying an attached structural foundation is moved to the bottom of the column. Well, that's what we want. Foundations have to sit below the column, so it automatically adjusts that, right? And then if I want a different column, let's say I want a 4 H piles and a capital, and then my column sits on that, well, you got to go insert, load Autodesk family, and then go back to all results, structural foundations, and notice all the different ones that we have. We have a 4 pile cap one, so I'm going to select that guy, say load, and then go back to structure, isolated foundations, and then notice the one that's there. Again, you can customize it by clicking on it, duplicate it, and change whatever sizes you need to have. I'll go with the default one. I didn't change any, except for that square foundation. In the model that you guys are working on, I did not change any of these. I just went with the defaults. So I'm going to select that guy and say, I don't even have to do this precisely. I could say add grids and then select grid items. But I'll go in here and do that. Okay. Do that. Do that. Right? That's how we would place different foundations. We put the columns in, we put the grid lines in, we put the columns in, we put the foundations in. Just make sure the offsets are correct. As in, I wanted my column to be 2 feet below grade, which means the bottom of the column is 2 feet below grade and the top of the foundation is 2 feet below grade. The top of the foundation and the bottom of the column are the same place. Does that make sense? Is that how it's done? Not necessarily. What do you mean? Well, if it's concrete, yes, that's how it's done. If it's steel columns sit about 6 inches or 4 inches above the top of the foundation, and then there's a base plate. So when we pour a foundation, I've shown you guys where we have stored all the videos and pictures of when we were building the Gorey Center, correct? So if you ever go back and watch some of those videos, you'll see that they'll dig a hole, right? For these isolated foundations, they'll dig a hole. They're not going to dig all the holes and come back and try to fill them with concrete. In California, that's fine. In Auburn, Alabama, not so much. Why? Because it might rain, the water might come up. So when we dig, we pour. If you're in a dry part of the country where there's no groundwater and it hardly ever rains, no problem, right? For Connor, no problem. Rest of us, we got to dig and pour, right? What we do is we dig, and then we have something called as a template. What's a template? So imagine there are rods sticking out of your concrete, which are called anchor rods. That's what your column is going to sit on. These anchor rods cannot be a 1/4 inch off, right? They have to be to the nearest 1/16 of an inch. So what we'll do is we'll take a piece of plywood. We'll drill holes exactly where we want them. We'll make sure that our anchor rods are sticking out exactly from there. And then we'll take 2x4s and then on all four sides, and then we'll make sure that it matches the size of the foundation that we're trying to put in, and then we'll place it exactly in the right place. We'll pour the concrete, and then we'll tell the surveyor to go check while the concrete's still wet. We want to do that while the concrete's still wet. Go check if it is where it's supposed to be. If it is, golden. Move on to the next one, right? So when again, it's important to sort of think about how these go in, right? So for steel columns, they don't necessarily go exactly on top. In reality, there's a 4-inch gap between the two, and then what we'll do is we'll grout underneath that base plate. What do you mean grout? Well, again, we want when you place concrete, the foundation concrete is not going to be super flat. It's not going to be level, like exactly level. But because the column is sitting slightly above the concrete, then when we put grout underneath that, there is such a thing called as a grout inspector. What does the grout inspector do? He'll take a rod and then push it through on random base plate, underneath random base plates. And then if that rod does not have any resistance, that means there's a hole. If it all of a sudden it's going in too smoothly, that means there's a hole in the grout. He'll ask them to re-grout that, right? And then every time that happens, he'll check more of them. So best way to do it is to nicely pack it in so that, again, it's really important because all the load from the building is coming into the column, and from the column to the foundation, and from the foundation to the ground, right? Anyway, once we have done this, now we can, now these are isolated foundations. What about wall foundations? How do we do those? Well, in order to do wall foundations, you got to have a wall. There are two ways to do wall foundations. So let me go back to my L1 structure, and I'm going to draw a wall. So if I select wall, and then I select, hey, let me draw, there's no other. Select wall, and let's see here. I want to do a concrete 24-inch wall, right? So let's say if I go from there to there, if I have that wall, again, this wall also goes in kind of quirky. It goes from level 1 to level 1 with a negative 20-foot offset. Well, again, doesn't make any sense. That's what it looks like, right? The wall is completely below my grid line. Well, that doesn't make sense. So I want to go from level 1 to level 3, and I don't want any offset. I want a 0-foot offset. So now it goes from level 1 all the way up to level 3. Now, if you want to put in a wall foundation, select wall foundation right there. Again, there are some preloaded ones. So let's say I want that one, and then I'll just select the wall, and then it puts it in. What do you mean puts it in? Notice that? That's kind of how it does it. Well, what if I have a step foundation? How do I make that? What's a step foundation? See, sometimes the ground's not level. Then what we have to do is we have to go a certain distance, step down, and then go a certain distance, step down, go a certain distance, right? So if you wanted a foundation like that, now we got to kind of manipulate Revit into making it think that that's what we're doing, right? So let's see how we could do that. So I'm going to go back to my L1 structure. I'm going to say structure wall, and then it says basic generic concrete wall, edit type. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to call it foundation wall or step foundation even. And let's say my foundation is 4 feet wide. Okay. Step foundation. Okay. Edit the structure. Let's say that this is going to be cast in place concrete. That's fine, except it's got to be 4 feet. And say okay. And now I'm going to draw a wall on here. So this wall is 4 feet wide, and just like the previous one, it has a negative 20-foot offset. Well, that doesn't make any sense. change it to negative, let's say 4 feet. And then it goes from level 1 to level 1. That's fine. It doesn't matter in this case. Okay. So once I've got this set up, now what I'll do is I'll go to this side and say, hey, let's look at it. Let's look at it. Let's cut a section. Everybody knows how to cut a section, right? Or, so again, let me do that again. There's the section tool. I'm going to say, go from here to here. And it wants to see all the way out that far. But I don't want to see that far. I just want to see this wall foundation. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to say, go to view, right click on that, go to view. Let's do again fine and shaded. That way we can see what we're working with. So there's my wall foundation. It's 4 feet below, except I want to step somewhere along the way. So if you want to step, I'm going to select that and say edit profile. And now I'm going to select, well, the bottom guy, unlock it. Let's go. Again, you can have reference lines and what have you, and then say, well, okay, that's exactly 2 feet and 2 feet. So that's what I wanted. And then I'm going to say somewhere over here. Okay, let's go about that far. Now I'm going to have a step down. What do you mean a step down? Again, select this line tool. So step down, go all the way across up to however far. Okay. And then, whoop, modify. Let's hide those again. Let's select that guy, unlock it, and let's go about that far. And then we're going to use the line tool. We're going to go down a couple of feet. And then we're going to go out and join that. And then if there are any remnants, we'll get rid of those. Anytime you have a step footing, it's got to look something like this because your rebar has to transition from one side to the other side of the step, right? So, and then we'll go ahead and say finish. So that's my step down footing. Now I'll draw a wall. So go back to my L1, and then I'm going to select my concrete wall. This one's going to be my 24-inch wall again. And then I'll just go from there to there. Okay, it says walls overlap. Well, of course, I know they overlap. So I'm going to go back to my elevation or my section again and say, hey, that wall goes from level 1 to level 3, except there's no offset, 0 offset, apply. Well, obviously this part needs to come down, right? It's got to match the foundation. You can't be floating above the foundation. So I'm going to select that, edit profile again, select this line, unlock it, go up to there, and then use the line tool, go down, go all the way across, and join back and finish. So now when I look at my 3D view, notice I've got a step down foundation and a wall. Right? Now, the assignment has you do something like this. Don't worry about the exact dimensions, right? Eyeball it, good enough for me. Just know how to do a step foundation. Does that make sense? Now, there are a few other, I guess the last thing that I've covered in the assignment is a slab, right? How do you draw a slab? Foundation slab, select rectangle. Again, it's a 6-inch foundation slab. I'm going to just draw all the way around it and hit finish. And don't attach for now. I don't know what I'm doing as far as the elevation, so I don't want to attach anything just yet. So when I look at 3D view, there's my slab. I've got my step down footing. I've got whatever's going on over there with my foundations. my columns, what have you. Yeah, so the first assignment basically goes over pretty much everything I've just talked about. Of course, you're going to repeat it 3 or 4 times, but that's the extent of what we're talking about. So I know I ran through everything, and I meant to. The reason I meant to is so that when we come to class on Thursday, I'm able to walk around and see if anybody needs any help. Okay? So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and get started with this. Like I said, this is somewhat of a longer assignment than others. The rest of them are going to be, well, it's not longer. It's just going to take you longer because you haven't touched the program in a hot minute. I don't know if I put a slab in there or not. Okay, maybe not. Yeah. Again, there's another part to the assignment. The second part, I'm going to go over in the second half of class next on Thursday, which is doing rebar, right? We need to add rebar to what we have done so far. And then I'm also going to show you while we're doing that how to draw beams and how to draw beams, how to draw braces, X braces, K braces, all those kinds of good stuff. Again, it's not so much that we are going to model as much as we need to know how they model so that we can build accordingly. Questions for me? So again, almost every class period that we're going to meet, we're going to have an assignment. So stay on top of it. Let's have a great semester. Now, given the computer situation, you know why it worked faster for me? I use my computer. If I use the virtual computer, it's going too damn slow. So even though we're in a computer lab, if I can find a better room, even there are no computers, we'll do that. Is that okay with everybody? Yep.
Maybe a room with, we had more screens in the summertime, just because that was really useful to be able to see around.
Sorry,
Is it even if it's a room with no computers, a room with like more screens, just that was really useful in the summer.
Yeah.
To be able to see all.
Yeah.
The roof like a fair amount of powder. I feel like it'd be good just because since I feel like most of us was like this is gonna make our life. But it does.
So you
You could get your.
That's your responsibility. You're the facilities guy.
Great lines, Brendan.
I don't remember the first step. There was like a step before the line.
Everybody, see you guys next week. Sorry, no, see you next class period. I didn't say not Thursday. See you Thursday.
You got one before rock. So is this all? Like the horizontal though? Yeah. So that's
Yes.
So does the like. So.
Ask that on back there.
I mean, we can do it tomorrow, we're back, the TA thing. What time is that? It's 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock.
Hey, what's your comfort level with Revit?
Bad.
Have you done it in undergrad?
We took one class that had CAD and Revit. So we did like Mac-ish this semester on Revit, but it was one of our intro classes and so I haven't touched it.
Just one,
So
like one furniture.
I need to be refreshed.
Okay, well, try to work on this assignment, and if you have any questions, let me know, we can.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You guys need to do just the structure and architecture on CAD. Or any other program you choose. There's also a program called Tekla, which does structural modeling.
Yeah.
It's up to that, but
Everybody's doing this assignment.
it's free for students.
And they have, so be specific when you're working.
It's free for students.
Because they have architects.
Is it easy, is it easier than Revit?
And you wanna find.
I think once you get the hang of it, it's, a lot of people like it. It's the first, even before Revit, was Revit before Revit.
See how cool I am, like, this is what's going on.
As for
Those two, now, as for submitting it with this graded. I'll put it on the computers.
I was gonna say, I can just email it to you.
Well, I'll have all. Okay.
Okay, works. Thank you.
And then for MEP, we'll do Revit again.
I haven't done kind of, I mean, yeah, I've done structural, but, and I've done HVAC, but I haven't done plumbing.
I did.
We'll
I
do
did
it.
a little
Let's
like.
make HVAC, plumbing and electrical in this, again,
And I just.
I'm doing surface level, I'm not getting anything.
I put it on.
I'm doing it in our building, because I wanna spend more time doing other stuff, talking about how builders are using these programs.
Then I'm sitting on my computer and it's on the wall.
Thank you.
Cause if you try to do it on your computer, you can find it.
You guys are screwed. I'm moving on to this. I'm leaving all of this. Well, just for structural and,
No, that's not on file.
he just.
Just protocol.
Yeah.
No, I think I'll close Revit.
Because I carried it here.
And normally it says on the door, that there's a class like.
It doesn't matter.
Wake up the whole thing.
Double click on.
And then we'll have,
I just have a haircut at 9, so I'm good.
So there's.
just have those.
You want
lights
light
in
in
the
the
dark.
background?
Yeah.
You know, like, score it
Go
and
back
start working on
to
it.
structure or architectural.
Then we're gonna eat.
Even though I'm not using the same program.
You're not using the same?
Not for structural architecture.
You got a grid or like?
I mean, this is for.
Yeah.
So we were in a video tree, bizarre, it's literally the computer lab connects.
Yeah.
So it'll just be that.
In there. Get out of command, double it.
Yeah, we put a little.
You know how to mouse?
Yeah,
Or how you use it?
I was saying,
Yeah.
There's.
get it down like
I was
this.
about to
Well,
say,
it's
there's.
not-
Yeah, it's all kinds.
There's Honor and his guys.
Maybe you'll have it.
Chat, and then there's our little group chat, there's the girls group chat.
Use your.
Listen, like, it's public, I was having you know, sitting there. Yeah, we like meet every once in a while.
Just gonna knock
We
the.
try to knock down.
I'd rather do it.
We'll have class tomorrow, so.
I'd rather do it with people.
We had like 2 grades to stay, so you know, yeah, we spent like
We harassed.
20 something hours together.
Really?
Sometimes this.
You know,
Oh, yeah. That's story, so I was like, I don't want them going.
It was
People were like,
probably.
okay, well, okay, like 2 years long.
Perfect, go.
No, we were not here.
But I don't like.
Oh, thank you guys, I appreciate it.
That guy. We'll see you all tomorrow.
First day, along the. This should be fine.
Yeah.
After you created the level, then you would go create the, I'm sorry, let's do.
Oh, no, I'll be done.
So after you created the levels, let's get rid of all of those.
We're gonna do that and just work on it.
And then
Hopefully it'll be available.
where it says.
Find another problem.
So bugs, we change it to none. And then.
Don't scroll that home.
Alright, we'll see you all tomorrow.
Basically, start, and I don't know what these are.
These are gonna sleep.
Yeah,
That was the worst time. Well, then like, what does it do? It doesn't give you privacy.
already elevation. You don't have to really think that is.
I think it's something on
Oh,
the screen.
oh.
Okay.
But, I mean, basically watch my video, you can pretty much follow.
Well, it didn't start at the beginning. But-
No, when I started modeling, I was starting.
Okay.
It was on.
Okay, then I can typically find it from you. Okay, I'll just save this. And I can access this in with.
Call it structural assignment or something.
What is the point?
I did. Thank you.
Jets, what can I do for you?
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about my capstone.
What do you want to work on?
I wanted to get your opinion on Revit and golf. And how they're making the construction of the courses different, and I wanted to integrate AI and robotic, like, how they're using robotic machines now.
For what? Why we should like construction?
Like for maintenance, yes, sir. Like they're doing,
Or, I know for maintenance, but for construction.
yes, but like robotic drones and certain things. And how,
Well, don't worry about don't make it about golf courses, because if you do that, then people will raise eyes.
Yesterday, it was a 70.
Focus it on, advances in technological advances for robotic earth moving operations. I think we could do a golf course, and then we could a football park.
I was gonna,
Find somebody that's doing a golf course and say, hey, this is what we could do, and then golf course is no different than. What's your phone?
that's what I was gonna
Move
do,
dirt, move dirt.
try and find people. that-
Alrighty, y'all.
Hey, let me show you something. I was in Austria.
That's where my golfer, when I was honeymoon, he wrote it off on the stats, is
See y'all tomorrow.
because he played there.
Brody.
See, Pat?
Sounds good, see that.
So I was in Austria.
Pat, where are you?
These damn shoes, they cut grass,
Yep, that's what I was gonna talk about.
and then they go charge themselves.
That's amazing. That's not even.
I'm like, this is nuts.
And it's only gonna get more advanced than that, so they're gonna be like, they'll probably do the greens, they'll probably have robotic rollers.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the problem with that is it's hard to find people to do that kind of work anymore. And people are not gonna be yours besides those machines. No matter what. The machines are not very good at identifying variations. If it's leaking oil, I'm not sure that a machine can spot it.
Mhm.
Or maybe there are some that can detect oil pressure loss and stuff by themselves. But
Are you gonna be playing in the tournament, out of the RTJ?
yeah, we play.
I'm playing with Turner. So we'll see how it goes.
Who do you know who you're playing? Dustin is Robert Dustin.
Justin, I'm playing with another guy named Wesley Jenkins.
Oh, yeah, I remember that name.
He's a student, he asked me to play, so.
You play?
I'm gonna volunteer. I help out.
It'll be fun though. I'm gonna start researching that and then you get back to you.
Yeah. So, don't put golf course in the title, because I want people to say, what is it called?
Raise eyebrows.
It's because what we're talking about is using robotics for moving dirt.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Alright, see you Thursday.
I more just wanted to talk to you about the virtual computer stuff. So since it didn't work too well on that, if I try it on my personal computer, I'm just trying to figure out where do I need to save things? Because to,
Box or OneDrive.
okay,
You
just
could do
save,
that.
because I can access that from the virtual computer or my computer. Okay, then that should work. I'm just making sure I have the right process, so I don't do all those work things that I can't.
Right.
Okay. That'll be good. So. We'll see you on Thursday.
Hey, I've never called you a friend. I was just so busy this summer, but I plan to call her either this week or next week about using Revit for residential.
My friend.
Wasn't that you? Somebody somebody talked to me about, hey, I have a student, I have a friend who's a residential contractor and that he's doing a lot of CAD drawings for.
That was not me.
Okay, somebody else.
Yeah, maybe,
I need to look at that. I haven't done that, so I've got.
no, you're fine. I'm trying to, maybe it was like Lily.
Not Lily, it was a guy, so.
I know